in order to impose stiff tariffs on imports from Mexico, Canada, and China. Mr. Trump says it'll be 10% on all imports from Beijing, 25% on imports from north and south of the border, though Canadian oil gets a tariff of only 10%. Bad news for U.S. education.
New results from a national exam find that America's children have continued to lose ground on reading skills in the wake of the pandemic and have made little improvement in math. The national exam results also show while the highest performing students have started to regain lost ground, lower performing students are falling further behind. Given every 2 years to a sample of America's children, the National Assessment of Educational Progress is seen as one of the best gauges of the academic progress of the U.S. school system. John Scott reporting.
Costco and the Teamsters have reached a tentative contract agreement avoiding a strike.
The Costco Teamsters National Negotiating Committee has reached a tentative agreement for a new contract, which still has to be presented to membership for a vote before approval. However, this averts a strike. Costco has 219,000 U.S. employees. The union represents 18,000 of them in 6 states. Teamsters members were demanding Costco make a contract offer that reflects its sales and profit growth. Revenue at the company rose 5% to $254 billion in its most recent fiscal year. I'm Julie Walker.
Federal authorities have arrested a former Federal Reserve senior advisor for allegedly giving inside economic information to China. Grand jury indicting John Harold Rogers of Vienna, Virginia. This is SRN News.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-208-0414, 800-208-0414. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and you get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-208-0414, 800-208-0414, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
Get your daily dose of Dennis Prager at PragerTopia.com. Hear the Happiness Hour, Celebrity Guest Day, Male-Female Hour, Ultimate Issues Hour, and Open Lines. PragerTopia.com.
Just when you thought your smartphone couldn't get any smarter, now you can add the AM860 app with local news, national headlines, and commentary. The answer is smart. Adding the AM860 app to your smartphone is genius. Get it now at the Apple App Store and Google Play.
For today, variable clouds with a high of 76. For tonight, increasing cloudiness, low 64. Tomorrow, a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 80. Tomorrow night, mostly cloudy, low 64. On Tuesday, mostly sunny, high 81. Tuesday night, low clouds, low 63. Get your weather news when and how you want it, wherever you are. Download our free app or visit AccuWeather.com. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Caitlin Lawrence for AM 860, The Answer.
The following program is sponsored by Bay Area Medical Can Care Clinic.
Go, Doc.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Bill, your radio MD. I got Ken with me. Are you there, Ken?
I am here, Doc. I am always here for you, buddy.
Oh, thank God for that. So we've got a busy week coming up, huh, with the tariffs being imposed. And I guess some of the automakers are a little concerned because some of the parts that they get come from Canada and from Mexico. Did you know that a lot of these parts go back and forth across the borders a couple of times to have different pieces put into them?
I did not. No, a couple of times?
Yeah, and so this is going to be, it's going to be difficult for the government to sort out what is what and what do you put a tariff on. So if they manufacture a gear mechanism in Canada and you ship your drivetrain up there to have a gear put in it and then ship it back, is it the whole drivetrain or is it just the gear? And so it's going to be interesting to see what these guys do. But GM and Jeep, they're all upset because I guess this is going to affect them, and their stock prices went down a little bit. I don't know how much this is really going to add to the cost of a car, but that's to be seen, Ken. We'll see how seriously it's going to impact our domestic auto industry. And remember that a lot of automakers, foreign automakers, have moved their factories to the United States as part of the legislation that passed back in the 80s and 90s. It said that that was to make sure the Japanese weren't undercutting our wages here.
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
And so a lot of these cars like Toyota and Honda and all that, they're all made in the United States anyway. Where do the parts come from? Well, I would guess that they come from the United States and Canada and Mexico primarily. Now, I know that Mexico, a lot of the parts for air conditioning units are being manufactured down there, but it wouldn't hurt my feelings to see those come back into the States and be manufactured. And if you pay a few bucks more, well, that's okay. Doesn't bother me. It's like if we put a tariff on Colombia, a 25% tariff on their imports, if they don't play ball with us on returning their citizens that are here illegally, what's that going to do? Drive up the price of a cup of coffee a nickel? I mean, some of this is just nonsense. It's just hysteria.
It's scare tactics. It's a lot of scare tactics.
Yeah, it's a lot of fear tactics. And but now I know this is going to upset you a lot, Ken, but here's some of the other things that the tariffs are going to affect. Cherry tomatoes.
Oh, no.
Canada is a big supplier of cherry tomatoes. So we're going to see cherry tomato prices.
Do they make pizza out of that? They don't use that for pizza, do they?
No, that's wrong.
I don't care. Fine.
Yeah, I don't care. As long as we got domestic tomatoes. What are you talking about?
That's right. Don't mess with
them in the backyard and grow them, for God's sake.
Until he starts messing with the price of pizza, I'm okay.
Yeah. Now, if this impacts pizza, then we're going to have riots in the street.
You're right.
Now, here's another big thing, which is really upsetting. Apparently, there's a group of 5-year-olds that are organizing to march on the White House. Tonka trucks, the price of Tonka trucks, which are made in Canada or China or somewhere, are going up with the imports. So Tonka trucks and the 5-year-olds are all up in arms. So we can't find it.
Are they marching?
We can't find any other trucks for them to play with. Can you believe that?
Signs made with crayons? Are they out there on the streets with their crayon signs marching?
They are. They're doing chalk marks on the sidewalk saying, no tariffs, Mr. President.
No tariffs on Tonka.
Now, maple syrup prices are going to go up because, as you know, Canada's a big supplier of maple syrup. Well,
yeah, but not that much. I mean, it's.
I like maple syrup, but come on, it's already priced through the ceiling. I mean, it's expensive.
It is, yeah. It's expensive.
Oh, my gosh. You get a little pint bottle up there, and it costs you $20. Hey, liquor's cheaper than that, dude.
Pour that on my pancakes. See how that works out.
Yeah. Now, here's another thing that's going to really upset you. Tequila prices are going up.
Well, watch it. Now you're starting to.
Now you're getting
now you're
closer
starting to hit home.
Yep, you're going to have to go back to Bacardi rum. Remember when rum was popular and then tequila came in? What's the difference? Can you really taste that much difference once you mix it with some Coca-Cola?
No, I don't think so.
Right.
Well,
okay,
maybe
good.
between tequila and rum you could, but
I
the
guess
effect
it
is the
means
same.
something to some people, but for most of us, we're just in it for the alcohol. We don't care what it tastes.
Exactly. The effect is the same. So
yeah. See, alcohol's alcohol.
Exactly.
So when you distill alcohol from agave plants or from sugar cane or from corn mash, guess what you get when you distill that out? You get 100% ethanol. And then you add the flavoring and the aging back in to make it tequila or gin or bourbon. And bourbon is aged in oak barrels, and that gives it that dark color and that little tang. And they throw a few pinches of this and that in there. I don't know what all they put in there, dead rats or whatever. Anyway, and that gives it some flavor. And they used to put, what was it they put in the tequila bottles? A snake or something?
No, worm.
That?
A worm. It was a worm.
A worm, yeah.
Well, hey, you're not supposed to be drinking all that much anyway, so it's not going to affect you probably too much if you're a reasonable drinker. If you're an alcoholic, I could see where you'd be upset.
Now, if you
what is recommended right now for drinking? Is there any recommended You know, it's safe to take like two drinks a week or something. What is the recommended allowance?
Well, it depends on who you listen to. If you listen to Mark Siegel on Fox, drinking is bad one day and the next day moderate drinking is okay.
Okay.
So the research that I've read says moderate drinking actually staves off dementia. What's moderate? Well, I guess if you can get up and walk around the house, then you haven't had too much.
Well, also, if you think about it, the Italians, they have wine all the time with, lunch and dinner.
They're in terrible health.
Yeah, they have a lot of time off.
Yeah, they don't, they mill around. No, they actually, the Southern Italians and the Sicilians, they have a long life, but they attribute that not only to the red wine they drink, but to the Mediterranean diet, so-called Mediterranean diet, which is, I guess, high in certain good fats and low in bad fats and whatever.
Okay.
But I think also they stay active and they stay slim.
Yeah, there's a lot more walking in Europe than there is in this country. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. But they have much shorter distances to go, and they don't really venture out the way we do. So it's unusual to see someone move from southern Italy to northern Italy. To move from Naples up to Milan. That's a big move for a lot of people. But for us, to move from here to New York or out to San Francisco, that's like, we're going to be a little bit far away from the family, but that's not a big deal. We mishmash much more.
Yeah.
And so it's a different world, and we have much greater distances that we have to travel. And the Chinese and the Russians have the same thing. The Chinese have solved it by putting in bullet trains, and the Russians have solved it by going from ox to mules. So that they're going a little faster than they used to. Did you see where Putin said if there's any more attempts made on his life, there'll be nuclear war?
Oh, really?
Who's he going to attack?
Exactly. He's going to have to bomb his own country. He's doing that already.
Well, yeah.
Have you been reading about this? They've been dropping a lot of bombs on the Russians in the Kursk area by accident.
Because they don't know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're doing. That's right.
So here's another thing that's going to really upset you, Ken, because I know you love avocados on your pizza.
Oh,
avocados are going up in price because they're grown, of course, in Mexico. And so we've got a big crisis coming. Smartphones, of course, because they're made in China. And this is really upsetting me. I don't know if I can handle this. Sledgehammers. They're going up.
Why are sledgehammers going up?
25% on your sledgehammers. So
where are they made?
They're made in China, but they're so difficult to make. You just press a piece of iron, put a handle on it.
The shipping cost for that must be terrible.
I know, come on, the shipping costs are probably, you do it here and you're going to be able to charge the same price as if they came from China because you're not going to have shipping.
That's right. America needs sledgehammers.
A lot of this is just silly hysteria, and it's people who don't want to see a change in the economy and in the relationship with China because they're making money off of it.
Right.
They're making big money off of importing cheap Chinese stuff.
And with the changes, somebody else will be making money. But it'll be here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It'll be here, and it'll force us to create some more jobs, and it'll boost up the economy, and maybe prices will go up a little bit, but they're not going to be that big of a deal. This is the same thing they said in 2016 when Trump said, I'm going to put tariffs on the Chinese, and how much did it impact you?
I didn't notice at all.
I didn't, I think I paid 30 cents more for a pair of flip-flops, but maybe they were going up anyway. I don't know.
I would like to know why I paid $2.99 for gas Friday. I thought it was pretty cheap. Are you paying $2.99 around your neighborhood?
Well, I tried to put gas in my electric vehicle.
Oh, don't do that. No.
To put it in.
I forgot. You went electric. That's right.
I run electric, baby, but the price of electricity has been creeping up, as you know.
Well, that'll continue.
Yeah, but so what I do is I just wait till the neighbors are out of town. I plug into their
house. Sure, yeah. That's what you do. I'll bet there's a lot of that
why
out
is our
there.
bill so high this month? Oh, it's that Handelman again. So then
you have a charger. Is yours in the garage? So people
I
can't
had
do
one,
that?
and the damn thing broke. I put it in myself, put in a 50-amp breaker. I mean, I pulled the cover off of the main panel, wait till she went out to shop, and turned the whole house off and put in a 50-amp breaker, took out a couple of 20 amps and plugged that in there, pulled a number 6 or 8 line. It took me an hour to pull that line 1 foot. I put the outlet about a foot. I mean, that stuff is stiff. Anyway, I got it all hooked up, bought one of those Grizzlies. They're made in Canada, by the way, so they'll be going up in price. And it's a charger, it's an inverter or whatever. And that worked well for a couple of years, and then it died on me. So then I was surfing the net, and I saw where this guy said, you don't need all that. You know that cable, that 110 charging cable that came with your car? And he said, just use that every night. So that's what I've been doing, and I'm fine. I just plug it in 110 outlet and put that in there, and charges, it's not as fast as a 220, but if you do it every night, you're fine. You're good.
Top it off, yeah.
Top it off, baby. So you just top it off.
And you're not driving that far anyway, every day.
No, but we've taken it across the state, Ken. We've taken it over to the East Coast, and no problems whatsoever, really.
Yeah.
If you look for hotels that have charging stations, and you have to make sure they're working, because part of the problem with this infrastructure is these chargers don't always work, and then you can go there, and of course there's going to be competition, so you got to kind of sneak around outside and wait for somebody to move their car out and stop charging. Then you back in real quick and get yours charged up. But you can do it. And there's also, there's charging stations all over the place, and you can stop in any number of places. I think it's Charge America or Electrify America, which is one place that I use, that if you have a Hyundai Ioniq 5 like I do, you get free charging.
Oh.
They had a deal with them. So
it's a perk.
It's still cheaper than gas, believe it or not. And there's absolutely zero maintenance on these things,
Well, as long as you plan ahead, I guess you're okay.
Yeah, you plan ahead with these things. Now, you can't just go and think, I'm going to find someplace. You got to, and most of the cars, the electric cars, they have on their apps, on their map apps, they have a thing that will tell you exactly where charging stations are, how many charging stations are in use, how many are out of commission. And then, you know what? There's even a charging station in downtown Gulfport, Florida. Behind the Peninsula Hotel, there's one. So you go down there and plug in, go eat dinner, come back. You got another 10, 20 miles.
All right. Well, I'm not ready to make that jump yet. I'm not ready to make that jump yet.
You got to look. No. Well, I think this is going to slow down under Trump, but you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently Elon's licking his chops, so he probably knows something we don't.
Always.
Well, he's a smart boy.
He is, and he's in a position to know those things now. So, yeah.
So, speaking of China now, we've got DeepSeek, which is the AI app you can get on your cell phone. And apparently that's supposed to be much cheaper because they're using lower-end chips and not as advanced, and so they can do this much more cheaply. We'll see how that pans out. As you know, it really hammered a lot of the high-end chip stocks like NVIDIA last week, but they're coming back now. So I'm not convinced that this is what it is. First of all, it's a Chinese company, so you can't believe what they're telling you.
That's true.
And secondly, they must have stolen some of this from us to begin with.
Probably, because we leave ourselves wide open for that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, we invite the whole world to come in here and, hey, come on in our candy store.
Yeah.
You don't need cash. Take what you want.
Exactly. It's so sad.
It's just ridiculous. Well, I mean, we have made the Chinese what they are today. Okay, so now they're grown up. I mean, they're adolescents anyway, and they're late adolescents. And when did you leave home? I mean, I left at 18 and went to college and then went out on the street and came back, had kids. And, in my early 20s, I was raising a kid. So, I mean, it's time they can do this.
Sure,
they
absolutely. I mean, Japan had the same problem at one point.
Yeah, and we got everybody. We got the Germans up and running after World War II. We got the Japanese up and running. We got South Korea up and running. I mean, we've got China up and running. I don't think we did anything in Russia. They're still using ox carts.
We tried, but they didn't.
We tried.
They didn't take. No.
They don't want our help.
No, they don't. They want the world.
Guess what? They can't even run their own damn country. What are they going to do with the world?
I was reading yesterday that the North Koreans are apparently pretty good little fighters. They're using World War II tactics, like banzai, attacks and things like that. But they're brave.
I mean, better than going back and starving to death.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's not easy to just charge into a machine gun. So these are brave little guys, and I'm afraid that if we ever get into war with these folks, it's going to be another Japan where they're just going to keep fighting till the last one's dead, which would be
That's
sad.
okay. We've got plasma weapons now, so
we had a whole bunch of weapons we didn't have back then. You're right.
Yeah, drop some plasma on their capital city, that'll end it in a hurry. See, that's the problem with Vietnam. We didn't bomb Hanoi. If we had bombed Hanoi flat, the war would have been over.
Yes, we should have done that.
We were merciful. We cared about people, and we cared about the poor little women and children, the innocents. Meanwhile, they were making weaponry to blow our asses out.
That's right. No, somewhere along the way, a proportionate response became popular among military people. And proportionate response is never probably any good because they don't learn their lesson.
No, because they say, well, they're not serious. They're only going after our troops, and we can hide our troops here and there. And so.
Yeah, so, you take out the Defense Department of their country, and it gets their attention. The whole building, I mean.
Yeah, just flatten it. I mean, you get people pushed down enough. I mean, it didn't work very well with the Germans, the carpet bombing of their cities, but eventually it got to them. By the end of the war, they were ready. They'd had enough.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a war of attrition. So they just ran out of, they ran out of
everything, including Hitler's.
That's right.
At the end, they didn't have a Hitler anymore.
They were making everything underground. It was sad. Yeah. So they should have quit a year
using
before.
slave labor, and
exactly.
The problem with slave labor is eventually that backfires on you.
Yeah, their attitude's always really bad.
Yeah, and so then they tend to leave a little part out of your missile system.
Didn't quite bore that rifle all the way through. Oh well.
Yep. Oh well.
What else is going on, Doc?
Well, I'm sitting at home the other night, and I'm having a beer and thinking about the world and what a horrible place it is. So I had another beer. And so I'd had a few beers, and the ER calls me and says, "Oh, Dr. Handelman, we've got your patient so-and-so here that we had seen in the office, and he's obtunded, and he has this really abnormal EKG." I said, "Send me a picture." And I looked at it, and I said, "It looks like a bundle branch block." That's when the QRS, the electrical activity of the two big ventricles shows up on the EKG. The EKG's that little electrical squiggle thing the doctor does in his office. And normally that QRS is maybe 100 to 120 milliseconds. That's 1/10 of a second in width, and it's tall and it's peaked because the ventricles are big and heavy, and they produce and use a lot more electricity than the top chambers, which are thin-walled. So at any rate, I'm looking at this, and it's this wide QRS. It's spread out like crazy, and you can have conduction problems where one part of the conducting system from the top of the heart down to the bottom of the heart gets damaged, and so then you have the ventricle. One may discharge before the other, and of course that spreads out the electrical interval. The time it takes for it to get through the heart, the electricity. And so then they sent this thing to me, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't right. But I said, looks like a bundle branch block. And of course, 10 minutes later, they called me back and they said, "Oh, we forgot to tell you his potassium is 8. So potassium, as you know, or you don't know, is a necessary ingredient when you're trying to make heart and muscle cells work. You got to have this. And so I don't know if anybody's watching on Facebook or YouTube, but this is the abnormal EKG with the wide QRS. And I know folks at home who are on the radio, you can't see it, but this is like, a couple hundred
milliseconds, 250 milliseconds, which is tremendously prolonged. I was like, damn, that doesn't look right. And then they call me, and this is one of the side effects of the high potassium. And of course, this will kill you because what it does is it poisons the membrane of the muscle cells in the heart, and also can affect your brain and your skeletal muscles and everything else.
So he had too much potassium.
Yeah, way too much, and he was in kidney failure.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the side effects of acute kidney failure. Now, the guy had been in the office for a couple of days before, and then the day of admission, he came back and he was worse. And he failed to tell us that he was diabetic and had high blood pressure. And this is a problem when you send your husband in without the wife, without the boss. You don't get the whole story. So I always say, where's the boss? Where's the wife? Get her in here. And of course, the women are like, well, he doesn't want me to talk for him. I said, I don't care what he wants. And I tell the old man to shut up.
You're going to tell the truth. That's right.
Yeah, I need to know what's going on here. This is my license, baby, not yours.
I'm the one that's going to get sued. That's right.
So the emergency treatment for this is actually different electrolytes. First of all, you try to lower the potassium in the bloodstream, and you can do that by giving the patient sugar, glucose in their vein, and insulin. And what does that do? Well, insulin forces sugar into the cells, and along with it, it brings the potassium back into the cells. So when the membrane becomes poisoned, it starts leaking potassium out. You have potassium and sodium and calcium and magnesium on both sides of the cell membranes, and the flow of these electrolytes back and forth is what determines the electrical charge of the cell. And then if the cell has a negative charge, when it gets stimulated, it becomes positive and it contracts, it squeezes. And so that's how you get the muscular contraction. And you think, this is pretty cool. You know, my heart runs on electricity. But it's chemical electricity. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat stuff. So we try to get the potassium down acutely right away with glucose and insulin. And we can also use high doses of calcium in the vein to offset the effects of the hyperkalemia, the high potassium, because this will help stabilize the cell membrane. And then, of course, you have to get dialysis involved, and there's medications that will bind potassium like Kxalate. And occasionally we have to use this in chronic renal failure because people's potassium keeps creeping up.
I didn't know potassium was that dangerous.
Oh, it's a big deal. It's a cardiac emergency when you have it this high. So, you know, we called in the ICU guys and everybody, and we're humping and pumping here. But we saved the guy. I think he's a little brain damaged or something, because I'm like, did you know you have diabetes? He said, yeah. Why didn't you tell me? You smacked him around, you know, tried to.
Well, no more bananas for him then, I guess.
No banana. But, you know, he apparently was obtunded. So this can affect the whole system. It can affect your brain. It can affect your heart, your skeletal muscles, and everything, because all the cells have to have that potassium balance inside of them. So this was a big deal for him. And the treatment, of course, is, again, to get the potassium down. And some of the symptoms are weakness, fatigue, numbness and tingling, palpitations, heart stops. You may have diminished deep tendon reflexes and diminished brain function. You can even have paralysis. And, of course, there's kidney failure. And, by the way, you can have this with major trauma, because when you crush enough red blood cells, they're full of potassium, and that'll leak out into your system, and then your kidneys can't handle it. And I saw that one evening when I came on the ER in South Georgia, and this young woman had been in a motorcycle accident. Her and her husband were on their Harley, and she was up in the sissy seat. Those of you who don't know what the sissy seat is, that's the back seat on a Harley that's higher than the front seat, which is kind of down in the crotch of the fuel tank. And so they had been T-boned, wasn't their fault, and the bike rolled over, and of course he was okay because he was protected by the handlebars, crushed her left femur, which is the long bone in her thigh. I mean, just crushed it. And I asked the guy who was going off, the doctor, I said, you got anything? He says, oh, there's a lady down in 8, but she just has a broken femur. And I kind of didn't trust him, so I went down there, and she's damn near dead. She's bled so much. And I'm yelling, "Fluids! Oh, negative blood!" And, and I'm packing it and wrapping it. At any rate, because she had broken down so many red blood cells, I mean, her femur, her long bone in her thigh, just looked like pate. I mean, it was just crushed. And but we were able to save her, and we got blood in her, and we got the potassium under control and all that. From the tissue damage, the potassium went up. So I packed it full of gauze and wrapped it as tight as I could, and we shipped her off to the trauma center. I got a nice letter back from the surgeon several weeks later, and he said that unfortunately they had to disarticulate. They had to take the leg off at the hip because they couldn't save it. But that I had saved her life, and I had done a really good job. And so that made me feel kind of warm and fuzzy.
As a young doctor, I'll bet it did.
And she hopped in and said hello. And no, not really.
Stop it.
It's cruel, isn't it?
Speaking of stopping.
What do you got going on now, Ken? Mugs?
Do you need a refill on the coffee there on the mug?
Yes, I am ready. And here it is. Here's the muggy.
There it is. If you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're watching, Facebook, we have one Dr. Bill, your Radio MD coffee mug, up for grabs right now. And to win this mug, all you have to do is answer the following question. It always is something that we've dealt with in the beginning of the show. We were talking a little while ago just about electric vehicles. Doc has one, likes it, loves it, drives it everywhere. How far, here's your question, first one with correct answer. How far has Doc gone in his electric automobile when it comes to Florida? Keep it in Florida. How far has Doc gone in his electric automobile in Florida? And if you know, the number to call, new number for you today, 813-282-8283. That's 813-282-8283. First caller with the correct answer wins. Again, how far has Doc gone in his electric automobile? Ain't that right, Doc?
That's right. And remember, don't think north to south.
No.
Don't think north to south.
Yeah.
It's a long state.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, if you know how far he's gone, give us a call at 813-282-8283, and we'll be right back, won't we, Doc?
We will. I'm Dr. Bill, your Radio MD.
Helping you get where you're trying to go. Get digital media solutions for your business. Visit surroundtampa.com. surroundtampa.com.
With SRN News, I'm Michael Harrington in Washington. Federal authorities have arrested a former Federal Reserve senior advisor for allegedly giving inside economic information to China. The grand jury has an indictment accuses John Rogers of Vienna, Virginia, of stealing Federal Reserve trade secrets and selling them to Chinese intelligence officials for about $500,000 by posing as part-time professor at the university in China. He is also accused of lying to Federal Reserve investigators and officials at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Utah lawmakers are working on a bill that would curb the political influence of unions serving teachers and other public service professionals. Teachers' unions are some of the most outspoken opponents of Republican policies in Utah, fighting efforts to limit the LGBT agenda in classrooms and end diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. This is SRN News.
Dr. Bill for Bay Area Medical, located at 6399 38th Avenue North in St. Pete, 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. Full-service clinic with x-ray, heart imaging, ultrasound, stress testing, and minor surgery. We provide quality health care in a warm and friendly atmosphere. We are multilingual, well-trained, and certified. Most American insurance and new patients accepted. Bay Area Medical, home of Can Care, 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411.
Dr. Bill here. With social distancing and sheltering in place, telemedicine is here. Bay Area Medical Home of Can Care Clinic offers telemedicine for new and established patients. You can see me without an in-office visit. Schedule an appointment at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411. When it's time for your appointment, type this web address into your cell phone or computer web browser, doxy.me/Bay Area Med. A cell phone works well and is all you really need.
For computers, you need a web camera and speakers. We'll give you this address when you call for your appointment. We accept most insurances and travel insurances. Canadians and visitors, please call your travel insurance company for an authorization number prior to the visit. Copays and deductibles apply. Self-pay rates are available. Just ask. We accept credit cards, PayPal, and Stripe. 727-384-6411. 727-384-6411. Dr. Bill here. My friends at St. Pete MRI and Sleep Diagnostics are your best choice for state-of-the-art MRI, CT, and sleep studies. Quality unsurpassed. 25 years experience makes St. Pete MRI my go-to imaging center. Self-pay rates are competitive and out-of-pocket cost a fraction of a hospital. Conveniently accessible from both sides of the bay at 750 94th Avenue North, St. Pete, near the Gandy. 727-577-2220. 727-577-2220.
At Simple Path Retirement, we can offer many of the resources of the large firms, but with the personal attention of a boutique firm. Visit simplepathretirement.com.
For today, variable clouds with a high of 76. For tonight, increasing cloudiness, low 64. Tomorrow, a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 80. Tomorrow night, mostly cloudy, low 64. On Tuesday, mostly sunny, high 81. Tuesday night, low clouds, low 63. Get your weather news when and how you want it, wherever you are. Download our free app or visit AccuWeather.com. That's your AccuWeather forecast. I'm Caitlin Lawrence for AM 860, The Answer.
And go, Doc.
And we're back. This is Dr. Bill. I got Ken by my side, and we have got a fun show going on this morning, folks. And I'm glad everybody's with us. Did we get a winner?
I think we did. I don't have the name yet. It's still in the other room. It's coming right now, as a matter of fact, I think.
Ken, I can't remember. Did I talk about the Black Hawk helicopter?
I was going to ask you if you wanted to get into that at all.
Yeah, I think it's important because, you know, the president said that diversity, equity, and inclusiveness added to the crash. And, of course, he's the kind of guy that he really does know a lot, and he's usually right, but he tends to kind of put things not in correct alignment, if you know what I mean. So he'll say something before he has the ability to actually show why and what and who and how, but eventually he does, but by that time the press has murdered him. So they're all going after him saying that he's, you know, making these statements and he doesn't have any reason to do it. Well, guess who was flying the helicopter?
Who was flying the helicopter, Doc?
Captain Rebecca M. Loback of Durham, North Carolina, and the family initially asked that her name not be released. I mean, you know, it's not their place to make that decision. She belongs to the military. She's part of us. At any rate, they said, okay, go ahead and release it, because I guess they said we're going to release it anyway. And she has been in since 2019. She was a graduate from the University of North Carolina. She was in the ROTC and scored in the top 20% of her class. And she has done a lot of stuff in the Army, and she's completed flight training. I think she had 450 hours, but you know that's not all in the pilot seat, which is, you think that's a lot of time in a plane or a helicopter?
That is nothing.
That's nothing. That's nothing. I mean, I don't want to fly with a pilot who has less than 5,000 hours. Now, you might find some of these young guys that are doing it who are sitting there with a senior guy in the back, so that if they get into trouble, and this is part of the problem, you know, we're short on pilots, and they have these mandatory or recommended retirement ages, but these guys, they can be flight engineers. They can sit in the jump seat. You know, they can be there, and they should be there with these young kids. Well, you know, you got somebody in their 30s that's flying a jet with 250, 500 people on it. That's a lot of responsibility, Ken. That's a lot of responsibility.
Well, you know, here's the thing, Doc. Here's the thing. Okay, somebody with that little flight time should not be flying through the patterns of a major international airport.
That's right.
Okay, shouldn't be anywhere near it.
Shouldn't be anywhere near it. They should have her out, you know, over 1,000-acre military range, and let her practice there, for God's sakes.
Yeah, she needs to fly 200 feet. Let her fly at 200 feet across a farm somewhere, not in front of, you know, 737s.
So the diversity, equity, and inclusiveness part of this comes in. She served in the Biden White House as a social aide, as well as a certified sexual harassment and assault response advocate. What does that mean?
I have no idea, but I know one thing.
I don't even know. It just it sounds like more political correctness and DEI. I mean, I don't care.
It's got nothing to do with flying, Doc.
Yeah, I don't want her flying my helicopter because she was in the Biden White House in some piddly-ass role trying to protect women from the mean men like me. I mean, I am mean, and I am a man. But that's what most women want. They want a man. They don't want some wimp.
They want bad boys.
They want bad boys.
Somebody's going
to protect them. They just don't want them to wander. They want them to stay home and be bad.
Exactly. It'd be nice if they vacuumed and did some laundry once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, come on. This is where the testosterone makes us a little aggressive. And, of course, we have to check it. And if somebody gets too out of line, they need to go to prison. Why do we have a Department of Certified Sexual Harassment and Response Advocacy?
I don't know.
Is there that much? I mean, did they call out Joe Biden for that, or what? Were they there to just kind of keep?
That sounds like it's a target. That sounds like a target for Elon. It really does.
Oh yeah, this is just ridiculous. And so they've got an inexperienced pilot flying in a major landing zone in a major city, the biggest city in terms of influence in the country, and the Reagan International Airport's pretty busy. It's not like Atlanta, but it's still,
it carries important people.
Yeah, it carries a lot of important people, and we lost some figure skaters,
some Russian figure skaters, yeah.
And we lost different people that were of value and assets to our society. And I mean, it's not a huge loss in terms of the numbers. You're talking about a very, 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 very small percentage of the 340 or 350 million of us that are here now. But still, it's important to their families, and it's important to the sport that they were representing, and to the other reasons people were traveling to D.C. It's just too bad.
Yeah, the pilots on the plane did nothing wrong. They were exactly where they're supposed to be. So,
and you got to have some common sense here, folks.
Yeah, you don't send pilots with that little time in an exercise like that.
You can't put them in a major flight zone. Come on, what are you doing flying over the Potomac at night?
Yeah,
by the Reagan Airport.
Pilots have been complaining about this for years. Apparently, at which airport was it? Reagan. It wasn't Reagan National, was it? Oh, this LaGuardia. Yeah, it was Reagan National.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, was that Reagan National?
Yeah, it's Reagan.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, pilots have been complaining for years about these crossover helicopter flights.
Yeah, and there's just absolutely no reason for it. And then you put an experienced pilot in there, and they can't tell whether the jet plane's anywhere near them, or they don't have on their radar, or they're not aware. And maybe the flight engineer or the trainer is momentarily distracted, and when a plane's moving at 250 miles an hour, you ain't got a lot of time to get out of the way.
Do you know what TCAS is? TCAS? Do you know what TCAS is? I don't know if military planes have that.
Spell it.
It's TCAST, something like that. It's a device in every plane that tells you another plane is close, and then it gives you instructions on what you should do to avoid that. And while it's telling you that, it's telling another plane to do the exact opposite. So you actually get a warning. It says dive. It says descend. But I don't know if military aircraft have that.
I do not know. I mean, I would guess that maybe the bigger planes do, but I would think that the stealth planes don't have that, because it would give them away.
Right. It was something they would have to turn on. Yes.
Yeah, there's something they'd have to turn on, but still, there's just absolutely no reason for this, and the military needs to be smacked, and the Biden White House needs to be reprimanded for the stupid things that they did, and trying to have inclusiveness and equity and diversity and all that crap. Who cares about that? I mean, I want guys and gals that can go out there, know how to do their job, and can fight, and can fly, and can take care of things. And we do have women fighter pilots, but they're few and far between.
Yeah, I mean, if you qualify.
If you qualify and you got the you've got the fast twitch fiber, and you've got the brain to do it. I mean, it's a big piece of equipment when you're flying an F-18 or an F-22 or an F-35. Those are pretty high-tech pieces of equipment. You got to train and train and train. And we're seeing that with the Ukrainians. You know, it's taking them a while to get up to speed to fly the F-16s.
Right. So, yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with women flying at all, to tell you the truth. But
no, I don't mind.
When they have a couple of 100 hours, no, not there.
No.
I wouldn't want a male trainee flying there. I don't want anybody flying there. Yeah.
No, the only private pilot I've flown with in my adult life was my patient friend who died recently, George Orgera, and he had 12,000 hours.
Now that's a pilot.
He had 12,000 hours, and he'd tell me, he'd say, Doc, you know, a lot of this is you just don't get upset. I mean, if something happens and you're coming in hot or cold or whatever, he said, you just stay cool. It'll be fine. And it's the same way in any, you know, whether it's radio or medicine or anything. If you have enough experience, then you just stay cool and you know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and you don't end up crashing.
But not trainees. Doc, we have a winner.
Who we got?
We have Dean Sechrist.
Hey, Dean.
Tarpon Springs, Florida. Lovely Tarpon Springs, Florida. Dean wins himself one Dr. Bill, your Radio MD coffee mug for answering this question. How far has Doc gone in his electric automobile? How far have you gone, Doc, in Florida?
We have gone from here to the East Coast. So we've been over to Coral Beach or Coral, I forget what that beach
was. That one charge, by the way?
Space Center.
Was that one charge?
One charge to get over to the Space Center from here.
Not bad.
Yeah. And because we have about a 300-mile range when I'm not trying to outrun everybody on the road.
It's a big vehicle, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's a big vehicle. How big is that vehicle?
It's a compact kind of car, you know, but it's very roomy inside because remember, you don't have a drivetrain. You don't have, there's the engine's about the size of, you know, you can hold it in two hands. And so there's a lot of space there. It's very roomy and it's very well appointed. But the weight is the thing, Ken, because the electric batteries are so heavy, you know, those things weigh 4,000 pounds.
Wow. Holy moly.
But the nice thing about it is you have a real low center of gravity. I don't know if 4,000, but say 3,500. You have a real low center of gravity, and they're very, very stable, very stable. So you can do a turn at 80, 90 miles an hour. You can do a 70-degree turn, and you don't even skid. I mean, you hardly move.
All right. Well,
it's pretty cool.
I'm glad you like it. I'm glad it's
yeah, I do. And you know what I'm glad about? I'm glad that Dean Sechrist won a mug.
Yeah, me too.
Yahoo! And thanks, Dean. We appreciate everybody who listens. We love you guys. All right, now what about the Palestinians? What are we going to do now? What's the next on our agenda?
Man, I don't know.
You know, nobody wants them.
Well, yeah. Why won't the Arabs take them? Why won't they take their people?
Well, here's what happened when Yasser Arafat and the Palestinian Liberation Army were exiled into Jordan. They started a civil war.
No,
the Jordanians had to mobilize their military to fight them off. Then when they went into southern Lebanon, they started a civil war. And in Egypt, they started trouble. And so nobody wants them around there because everywhere they go, they try to take over and stir things up. Well, you know, you got the Sinai Peninsula, which is basically empty, but the Egyptians, they will not take them. They won't take them.
They won't cede them the land and say, okay, fine, it's yours. Do what you want with it. But don't come to us for help. We're not going to be, building
for God's sakes, it's just desert. Let's throw the Egyptians, 5 or 10 billion and buy them a chunk of land and move their ass over there. I mean, come on, this is not rocket science.
Is it on the Nile? I mean, can they get water? If they get water, I'm good with that.
Well, hell, yeah, you can get water. You drill down 20, 30 feet, and there's probably, or 100 feet, and there's probably tons of water. You can desalinate, for God's sake.
Yeah, you can do a whole lot of things. Yeah.
You can do all kinds of stuff. You can hire some guy to do a rain dance and sprinkle the clouds with, mercury sulfate or something. I don't know.
Come on, Sinai's a good idea. I like the Sinai. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. And did you know that a lot of the wars that have been fought in the Middle East have been fought over water?
Oh, I'm sure.
Not over oil, but over water.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But now that the technology is better, they don't need to fight because they can produce enough water. They can get enough water. There's tons of water. We're putting water in the atmosphere every day. Capture this stuff, sequester it, impound it, use it to drink, use it to run hydroelectric plants. Come on.
Yeah.
Wake up, people. Damn
you
it.
drill far enough, you'll find some water.
You know, I'm going to have to start smacking some of these folks around.
Line them up like the Three Stooges and just right across the face.
Wake up. What's wrong with you people? And, of course, the Palestinians, they are not defeated. They don't see themselves as defeated. They're cheering in the street as they parade these Israeli prisoners back over to the border with Israel and cheering and screaming and waving their AK-47s and everything. I mean, this is disgusting.
I know.
Just give them some property, give them some land, and boot their ass out.
Take the guns.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe
those
I'm
are guns
missing,
I would take. Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing something here, and if I am, Ken, you'll have to tell me. But a lot of this just seems like common sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That went out in the 50s or 60s at the latest.
Oh yeah.
There's no common sense anymore, Doc.
And so the press now, they're going after Trump and saying that DEI, his fight against Trump's fight against diversity, inclusiveness, and equity is dominating the start of his second term. What are you talking about? This guy's probably signed 100 different executive orders in the first 2 weeks. DEI is just one little itty-bitty aspect of it, but you see these helicopter crashes and you got to ask yourself and say, wait a minute, did that have anything to do with it? And I'm sure that's what Trump is saying. He's saying this probably did.
What happened? Do you know what happened to the FAA? I saw a thing this morning. Maybe you haven't seen it yet. That apparently some system is down nationwide right now and slowing aircraft down at all airports. Some sort of warning system is down.
I'm not up on that, but it's probably the warning system that didn't work.
Probably.
The helicopter and the jet crash.
Could be. I don't know what it was.
I forgot to turn that on. Hey, Joe, can you flip that switch?
I don't know what it is, but it's odd that we're having all of these. Then we had the Philadelphia crash as well, and something went down in like Arizona last night. So it's very strange that all this would happen at the same time.
And not that there's that many more, but it's just that they all happen real close together. So it
right, they happen every day.
Your head and wonder.
I bet something crashes in this country every day.
Yeah,
We just don't hear about it unless
you don't hear about it.
4 others that have happened within 24 hours, and they start to lump them all together. So.
And do you know that one of the most dangerous professions, way more dangerous than being a cop, is being a commercial airplane pilot? Because a lot of these little jets, like the one that was the air ambulance jet that crashed in Philadelphia, those are professional pilots flying those little jets, and they do go down occasionally.
Yes, they
and
do.
it's a small fraternity of professional pilots. So when you lose one, it's a big deal. And we got hundreds of thousands of police across the country. So when you lose 1 or 2 police, it's not. We don't like it, but it's not numerically a big deal. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Statistically, it's not right.
Mm-mm.
But these pilots are the best of the best. Usually, these guys who make a lot of money. Those companies only hire the best pilots they can find.
Yeah, I know. And some of these guys are making $300,000 a year, and they're making more money than I'm making. Damn.
Oh,
Of course, the bus drivers are in St. Peter making almost as much as I am. What?
But you're right. I mean, planes go down.
Planes go down.
Yeah.
And when they go down, it's not like, you got an officer wounded and he goes to the hospital and he comes out in 2 weeks and he's okay. When it goes down, baby,
it goes down.
Yeah. That's it. I don't care if you're going 220 or 120 miles an hour. When you crash at that speed and you got all that jet fuel and all that momentum coming behind you, I mean, those guys in the cockpit, they just get crushed.
Yeah, they'll find nothing of them. Yeah.
No.
So anyway, but at that speed, and I don't know, you probably have seen the tape by now, but they were coming down. It looked at full speed, almost straight down. So something very weird broke on that plane. Like they'd lost a tail or something like that. Something major, huge. Yeah, came off. We'll see.
It's a bad thing. I'm telling you, it's a bad thing, and we need better safety systems. We need to make sure everything's up and running. We need the best of the best. We don't need diversity, equity, and inclusiveness.
No.
Listen, I saw this in medical school. We had, and I wasn't opposed to it. Don't get me wrong. We had the incentive to bring more black kids into the class to increase the diversity of the class and to help Black Americans move up. And this was in the 70s. And I think we had 8 or 10 kids come in. I think maybe 1 or 2 graduated. The rest dropped out. They couldn't do it. And it's okay to try. Don't get me wrong, Ken, but I think really we need to be focusing at the pre-K level and start working up from there. And we see this with the scores these kids are making in school now. The kids are dropping, and guess which segment of the population their scores in reading and math are going down the most and the fastest?
What's that?
The lower end kids.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's not good. That's
No, because it separates it out even further. It divides us even further into.
Well, that was the whole idea for the education department when they put it in.
Yeah, the whole idea of integration was to homogenize the population so that we wouldn't have a multi-class system like the Europeans have. And we've tried that, and so far it has worked in many ways. And I think that Black Americans have actually greatly increased their socioeconomic status and have come up tremendously. But we also have a lot of people that are in jobs that they're not qualified for. And we're making up for it, Ken. We're making up for it.
You'll see mistakes. Exactly.
You know, it's not just a matter of color. It's a matter of educational status and socioeconomics and single mom families. And, you know, there's a whole multitude of factors that come into play. And all these things have to be addressed and solved. And I think that we will eventually be able to do that. But right now, it's a slow process. It takes time. You can't absorb a slave population overnight. It takes a few hundred years.
Hundreds?
It does. It takes, I mean, you just can't expect that to happen. I'm sure that every culture has had this problem that has had a slave culture, a subculture in it. And it'll take time. But I think we're doing a really good job. I think we're getting there. But let's not go overboard with it.
No.
Let's not start including everybody who has, has had their feet switched from right to left.
Right.
And I mean, this doesn't make any sense, Ken.
A little bit at a time.
Let's not try to put a woman who's only had 450 hours of flight time into the cockpit in a busy landing zone. Come on, we don't do that.
No,
that's not right.
No common sense there again, Doc.
No common sense.
That's the problem.
And, that is a big problem. You got to inject some common sense into it. I mean, I want to see everybody do well. I want to see Black Americans, yellow Americans, red Americans, green Americans. I want to see everybody involved, and I want to see Black doctors and nurses. I want to see green doctors and nurses. They're really the cutest. And I want to see everybody doing well. And when my employees move on and move up, I'm happy for them. I feel like I've succeeded, that they have learned something and they're going to a higher level. And that's the whole idea of this, is to get everybody moving upward. I think we're doing that, Ken, but we still got a little ways to go.
Let's get some people moving to your office. You got less than a minute to tell me about the phone numbers and telemed.
The phone numbers? You want my office girls' phone numbers? Or?
Well, at least the office.
Wait.
We'll take it from there. Just get us to the office.
Yeah, let's get you to the office. I'm at 727-384-6411, 727-384-6411, and we are at 6399 38th Avenue North in St. Petersburg, Florida. I can do a telemedicine call with you from anywhere in the United States or the outlying areas, Puerto Rico, American Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands.
He'll even go there for you.
Listen, if you're in the Virgin Islands, I'll make a house call. We'll put it on your Medicare bill.
All right, Doc, say goodbye.
Goodbye, Doc.